I can't handle.
Oh,
I cannot handle life right now. I cannot handle life. It just died again.
Yay, bugs.
It just died again.
Yeah. Oh, and it's back. It made it back though.
I know it's back. I know it's back now.
Okay.
But I didn't. Dude, that was the second one. So now you can see I've got two, okay? And I had the one, and then I plugged in the other. There's two of them, and they both died. That one was what? 7 minutes in? 7 minutes? Come on!
They still last longer than you. 7 minutes is more than 2 minutes.
That is correct, Tarpy. You are correct.
See? I can math. People say I can't do math.
I am so stupidly frustrated right now. Give me another timestamp. I need another timestamp, please. What was that, 9:24? Send it to me. I got to call him. I got to give him my logs.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Oh,
I'm
my
just going to send you
God.
Discord messages from the right time. So. If it makes you feel better, this is my entire
I feel
first
no
half of
better.
my
I feel
semester.
no good, no better.
Oh,
I thought I had this
yeah.
thing figured out. Even did you guys even hear what Verizon did? Well, what I said that they
No.
did, they gave me.
No.
So yeah, you never even heard. So I paid for the device. I paid $200 for the second device, and they gave me a free line so I could just bounce it back and forth. But it worked better the first night. What the hell? The battery, it wasn't the battery, Carissa. It wasn't the battery this time. It just dumped data. And this is what it was doing in Nashville. Do you remember? This is what it was doing in Nashville. This is what it was doing in Miami. We'd hook up to it, and 5 minutes later, it would be dead. Destros, you remember?
Yeah.
And it wasn't
I wasn't in
battery.
Nashville, but it happened in Miami.
It wasn't battery. It just the thing died. It just dumped data.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like the game half the time. But yeah, Wilfred,
So it
that
sounds
was
like Scopely
different
bought
internet.
Verizon online tech.
Was that you beating up on the thing?
I don't even know what to do now. Like, I'm going to call him tomorrow and be like, okay, that crap didn't work. Like,
You need your money back.
well, obviously, I'm going to get my money back. I mean, for sure, I'm going to get my money back. But you know what? Here's the stupid thing. We streamed for an hour the other night. We streamed for an hour the other night on this device. This one right here. We streamed for an hour the other night, and it worked perfectly until it got hot. And tonight, it lasted 7 minutes, and the new one only lasted 15 minutes. What the hell? I am so confused.
Maybe the manufacturing was done by a bunch of Packlets.
I got nothing. Other than your test failed.
Yeah, test failed. I think I'm going to return them both and
buy the better ones?
cancel both lines on my account and just use the hotspot on my phone. It works. I mean, that's what we ended up having.
That's kind of crazy.
Isn't that what we had to do in Miami, Destros? We used a freaking phone hotspot.
Yeah, it worked better than this for sure.
Wait, seriously? That's what you streamed on in Miami?
Yes!
Uh-huh.
Yes!
You don't
I
remember
missed
seeing
that part of this.
climbing a tree like a monk, or Mootsie climbing a tree like a monkey?
She doesn't remember that because
So-
she was wasted.
Oh, that's right.
I was
forgot.
very drunk. There were a lot of mojitos.
I streamed off of I streamed off the hotspot of my iPhone.
So also remember, I was absolutely avoiding your table even when I was sober because you had so many cameras.
I'm so upset.
Yeah. That
And
sucks.
his girlfriend's right. Maybe just get a second iPhone just for on-the-go streaming.
That's expensive.
Business expensive.
That doesn't. It still costs money, guys.
to make it free.
Everyone's always like, it's a write-off.
know.
It still
write it
costs
off.
cash.
Yeah, just write it off.
Oh, God. Wham says the whole internet has issues with those. What? The Orbix? I mean, Orbic has better reviews than In Scenic or whatever they were.
In Seago,
In Seago.
they're all trash.
They're all trash.
Good job, Matters.
But you
Where's-
know what?
where's
Here's
Dragon
the
Keeper?
thing. They're not, though. This is what I don't understand. Okay, you want to hear the craziest thing? Okay? Here's the craziest thing. I've got 5 of these on my business work account. They all work perfect. Well, I've never tried to stream with one. You know what? That's what I should do.
Yeah.
Try one of those. See if you can do a little swippy swap and see if you can't
Yeah.
borrow one of those to see if it's just the whole brand.
I think I'll just swap one out. I'll just put this one in the work van, and I'll take the work van one. We'll try it.
Is it an Orbic?
It's the exact same device. But
Okay.
we never have problems with it at work. Like, we run a lot of stuff off of it. Now, I don't stream upload at 6,500 kbps.
That's the thing, though. I mean,
So-
these things may not be designed for streaming like this, the way they're designed.
So
It worked
DJs,
for
you
an
know what
hour
your-
the other night. It worked for an hour
You
the
know-
other night.
you know what Mrs. Boss's account name is, right? You can see if Mrs. Boss is watching right now.
No,
Just saying,
it wouldn't
before
be.
you
It
go
wouldn't be
and
a secret.
snag
I'm not
stuff out of
hiding.
your
I'm not
work
hiding
van.
nothing. I would just swap it out just for a test. I would just try it just to see.
Okay. Yeah, just saying. She might be watching. Hi, Mrs. Boss.
She wouldn't care. She wouldn't care for me to try it.
Okay, good.
She,
Okay.
she wouldn't care for me to
Like,
try it.
Feeling if
I
you
didn't-
replace somebody else's
But
$300 device with your broken one.
No, hang on. It's a decent test. It's a decent test though, because you know what? I said this from the very beginning. I think my account is borked. Do you guys
How
not
are we
remember?
dating
Do you guys not
members right
remember
now?
2 years ago when like my Verizon credit card points are just floating off into the ether? That never got fixed, by the way. That never got fixed. My Verizon credit like rewards points, I just gave up trying to get those. I don't get them anymore. Every single month it says, "Hey, congratulations, you've got 38 Verizon bucks." And then every single month I go to redeem them and it's like, "You have 0 Verizon bucks." Okay? I mean, I think my account is borked. Maybe I should just cancel the whole thing.
Yep.
That the nuclear option is clearly the best path right now.
Nuclear.
Other
The
option.
nuclear. No, but I'm
I
telling you, I
definitely
think
didn't do that on
I
purpose.
think that my account is borked. I think there's something wrong with my account. I'm going to call him again tomorrow. I'm going to like, listen, I want my whole damn account rebuilt. I want it all rebuilt, whole thing. Because my
Get them
Verizon
to
bucks aren't
send
coming
you
through,
a-
and now I've got
devices
2
first.
devices that don't flip and work.
So get them to send you an eSeago and TCL device and see if either of those work first. That would be the next best thing to try.
Guru, I don't understand how it can be the device. Like the other night, we actually streamed off of it for a whole hour before it died. More than an hour.
Okay, did you look at the Google or any sort of reviews on that before you bought it?
Obviously not.
Okay,
Classic.
that explains so much.
Oh, God.
Oh, how was the rest of your day?
Peachy.
It came in a colorful box. You cannot blame him for anything.
Oh, God.
Did it have mice on the box? That's the question.
mice? What?
Ooh.
Mice?
Yes, because you're a cat, right?
I think it was just sparkly on the outside, so it was like, ooh, shiny.
Wolfwood's right. Maybe we should see if the #1 content creator can help you out.
Yeah.
He doesn't live up in mountains, so he doesn't have to deal with this.
It's not about the mountain. My home internet is fine. The studio is fine. I'm trying to test ways to take
You
the
said
show on
that
the road.
about the thing.
Huh?
You said the thing was fine too. Stop jinxing yourself.
I've never had a problem with this.
Never. Do not say that.
Is your home internet
Someday they
connected
say
to?
great things come in threes. So
My home internet connection is fine. Okay? My
And
home
it's
internet
connected to what?
connection is fine.
Stop saying shit like that.
It's fine.
You're gonna break it.
But nobody does mobile shows like we do.
We are pretty awesome.
Thank you, Orcanado. Orcanado just donated $5 for me to get an ISP. Who cares? All right. Appreciate that. All right. I am extremely grumpy now. You know what? I tell you, this is hilarious. I cannot even make this up. When you guys go back and listen to the podcast where it dropped out, this is so hilarious because I was singing their praises about how they fixed it and made it work and it made me happy. And while I was doing that, you guys were off the air.
No, you were just silent.
Well, it's all recording. I recorded it. I mean, it's being recorded for podcasts. You'll hear my horrified reaction. Oh God.
I feel like I shouldn't be laughing, but it's yeah.
I don't know what to do. I guess just try to return them both. They're not going to let me return the one because it's been more than 30 days.
If
And
it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You have on-stream proof of it not working with timestamps. Who cares if it's 30 days? Their product doesn't work.
Yeah.
I think we need to do a live show from the Verizon store and see how long it lasts in their store to prove that they suck.
You know what? That's hilarious. I should probably do something like that. Maybe I'll get a little bit of attention. Maybe they'll
You
want to.
realize that's the one time it'll work.
Yeah, that is the one time it'll work because
With
they
your luck.
likely have they will likely have a tower right in the store there. So
It's not about the tower, dude. It's not about the service. It was connected. It was working. It just dies. The data
I'm just
throughput
saying,
just bricks, dude.
yeah, I know, but it's as I said, it's obviously there's an issue with this particular device when it comes to streaming. That's like obviously, and also overheating, right? When it overheats, as we saw the other night, right? So the simple thing to try here is to get them to give you a different one, the Inseego and the TCL. Get them to give you two, and if they both don't work, then then there is an account problem, and then you can go to that level of okay, rebuild my account now. Because if three hotspot devices don't work, like doing this, then there's obviously something else going on.
I mean, is it just that streaming just can't be done with a hotspot? But it works off my cell phone. That's what's crazy. It works off my flipping iPhone.
Because the iPhone is incredibly well designed. They're probably better designed than these things are. But at the same point, I know it doesn't make sense, but that's unfortunately what it is.
I mean, I've done multiple hour-long video conference calls from the lake on a mobile hotspot, from AT&T and one from Verizon. With weak signal. And I never lost anything or broke down. So I really do think it's the device.
Same. I can do that with my regular work laptops and do Zoom meetings just fine from my Verizon hotspot on my phone.
Wardon, that's really funny. He says, "Give me your Wi-Fi." Silvertap says, "If it works on the Wi-Fi, why bother with these devices?" Because I run into the same kind of issue with charging. It's bad for my iPhone. All right. If I plug it in and it gets hot, and it does, it gets super hot. All right. It's just, I mean, streaming from a cell phone is probably not ideal. It's probably not healthy for the cell phone. It just roasts the battery. So I can do it in a pinch, but that was why I got these. This is why I got these.
So the TCL jetpack or hotspot they have can be run without a battery, but it can also be run with a battery. So, as I said, get them to give you a TCL or an Inseego device and see if one of those will work.
So, also, like, if you stream for like an hour a day, like when you were in Nashville, you were not streaming for 8 hours to 10 hours a day. You'd stream for like an hour and then do recordings. So like 1 hour or 2 hours, 3 days in a row out of 6 months is not going to kill your phone.
I know, that's kind of what I'm thinking, is I'll just cancel all these, return this one. I can return one of them and get a full refund and close it all out. This other one, I'm going to have to finish paying for the device and then just cancel the line, I guess.
So
that's a nuclear option, but nuclear.
Get it right.
No, it's not.
Get
I
it
mean, it'll. I'll add more mobile hotspot to my iPhone line, and I'll cancel these devices, and it'll probably still be cheaper. It's just frustrating. It's just frustrating because these were supposed to work, and it worked better the other night. Like, what did we do different tonight that these failed tonight?
You jinxed it.
Yeah.
I didn't jinx it. They were not plugged in. They were not plugged in. And no, it's actually it's just a shade cooler this evening. All right.
Did you look at them funny?
Yeah, probably.
Did you move
right.
it half an inch to the left?
TJ says
Like
it'll be way
has
more expensive. Carriers give you cheaper prices when using the hotspots. Yeah, well, I mean, but if they don't flip it work, TJ.
Right, it's this particular model that might not work, DJ. Just get them to give you a different the two other models to try, and then if those don't work, then we can go for the nuclear option.
Nuclear.
Nuclear.
Gosh, risk breaker.
All right. Well, hi guys. How are you? Was the first hour of this show just absolutely riveting?
50 minutes. Yeah, that's great.
I just want to start over. I don't even want to air this. I'm so pissed off.
You can count the start of the show from the first cutoff or the second cutoff. Save some time.
There's a stream time counter, so this is 25 minutes into this current stream. Yeah.
Only 25 minutes. The rest didn't happen.
No, I'm going to cancel it all. You know what would cheer me up, Dr. Juby? You're absolutely right. Welcome into the show, everybody. Appreciate you guys all being here. Tarpy is here to talk about the entry guide into G5. Destros is on the stage. But before we do anything, absolutely anything else, for those of you listening here on podcast and playback, and thank you for doing so, we definitely did not cut 45 minutes of this show and bring you straight to stupid news. Absolutely did not happen. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the stupid news. Yes. It is time for us to check out the news headlines from all across the world. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate that. A Florida man has been arrested, Tarpy, for making threats against the president. That's right, President Trump. He was threatening, even challenged him to fight him naked to the death That's what he said. That was the challenge. He wanted to fight Donald Trump naked. But this is actually not wildly surprising because for some reason, Florida men always want to commit crimes naked. I have no idea.
Destros, is that true?
They always want to be naked.
Florida
Destros.
man or you?
Florida
Okay,
man
I'm
always
saying.
just want to be naked. I don't understand it. It's crazy.
We have our own Florida man right now.
Yeah, he's verifying.
Yeah,
A new
it's
report
present.
says that the domestic box office just witnessed its lowest grossing weekend of the year. The lineup was led by the action comedy Novocaine, but viewers are saying you need a way stronger drug to make it through that movie. So, yeah. In a recent interview, Star Wars actor John Boyega recalled how Tom Cruise helped him get cast in The Force Awakens. Did you guys know that? I didn't know that Tom Cruise had anything to do with Star Wars, but he was the one that apparently got John Boyega a leg up. Tom said it was an honor to give Boyega the booster seat. Yes. Sorry. I apologize to Tom Cruise. I don't want to upset you. I've heard you got a short fuse. Nick Cannon revealed that he's not done having kids, Tarpy, so there's still a chance. Nick Cannon says he's not done. He's already had 12 children with 6 different women, and he wants more, giving further proof positive that the most dangerous cannonballs are not the ones made of iron. Yeah. I get cannonballs. Oh, Gal Gadot.
Wow. Wow.
Gal Gadot says a major brain clot during her 4th pregnancy left her unable to hear or see during her pregnancy. Did you guys hear about this? I did not know that was like that happened to her. That was a serious complication. She was unable to hear or see anything, which according to the early reviews is something everyone is saying when they see Snow White this weekend. It's what everybody's going to be wishing for. Just go get pregnant. It'll be fine. Scary Movie actress Regina Hall says she's excited to read the script for the 6th installment of Scary Movie, coming to theaters next year. Meanwhile, the rest of us are actually shocked to learn that anyone involved in that franchise actually does, in fact, know how to read. Yes. The Minnesota Vikings are no longer interested in pursuing veteran free agent quarterback Aaron Rodgers, which is flipping great because I could never, ever, ever root for the Vikings. But, Aaron, piece of advice. If you are, in fact, having a little bit of trouble, just go commit a felony. They'd be signed in a heartbeat. Everything be fine. And ladies and gentlemen, that is your stupid news. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. I actually have one more, but it is so rated R, it's not even funny. Should I read that one and then cut it out of the show as well? Are there any children still listening? Because it is awful. It is a terrible joke.
Dr. Judy's here.
Go for it.
It's a terrible. Kids, if you're listening, parents, if your kids are listening, you close their ears for 60 seconds. This is a very inappropriate joke. All right, and I'm
Am I
cutting
going
it.
to slap you in
I am
like 6
cutting
months?
it from the podcast. Prince Andrew reportedly.
Oh, no.
Prince Andrew reportedly has an obsession with his prized collection of teddy bears. Tarpy, I just read about an article. About this. Has a super huge obsession with a collection of teddy bears, which must be placed in perfect order in his bedroom. And I mean, honestly, if you think about it, kind of makes sense because they might be mementos from his ex-girlfriends. I don't know.
Thank God.
The claim was made by royal author Tom Quinn, who has penned a new book, Yes, Ma'am, The Secret Life of Royal Servants. The book came out on February 18th, which ironically is a number a little too high for Prince Andrew. Okay.
Wow.
And cut. All right. As
That was no good.
oh my God, that was a terrible joke. The teddy bears belong to his ex-girlfriend. Sick. It's just sick. I'm a terrible human.
Yep.
Not as
That's
terrible as
why
him.
we like you.
Not as terrible as him. Okay, just throwing it out there. Oh, Lord Jesus. Burton says, okay, very, very stupid. Not nearly as bad as I was expecting. I thought it was, I'm sure you guys do have a better punchline. Listen, I said rated R, not rated XXX. Okay? Guys, you guys have your own punchlines? I can still edit the podcast. Go ahead, give me 30 seconds of your own. Juby says Prince Andrew jokes should be rated G. Great stupid news, everybody. Appreciate that, everybody. Having a good time. I'm going to have to spend so much time editing the show tonight. So much. Tarpy, welcome in. Good evening to you. How are you?
Hi. Doing okay.
Hi. This is a show that should never, ever air. All right.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch. That's even before Destros and I say anything. That's nice.
I know. I feel like we should reschedule this because we're off to a very bad start. I feel like we're off to a horrible start. This should
we're off to a fine start.
Absolutely
You're
be
off to a horrible
rescheduled.
start.
I know. It's a rough night. Rough night around here.
What do you want to do instead?
Go to bed. I'm going to go to bed. All right, guys. What we are doing tonight is we are going to give you a little bit of an education. All right. The world of Star Trek Fleet Command, the landscape of G5 has changed since I've been through it, since Tarpy's been through it. Karkin getting ready to go through it. Putt's going through it right now. And it's a totally different game than what it used to be. So here tonight, we've had our analytics together and put the lab rats all together, and they have formulated a presentation for you, ladies and gentlemen. As curated by Destros and Tarpy, I shall now turn the stage over as these fine Talking Trek lab rats give you guys the ultimate guide into the entry of G5. Before we begin, Tarpy, I do have a community submission for you, if you don't mind. Can we play a little track to... Can we play a track to get
Absolutely.
you? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Miss Tarpy.
Welcome to the zone we call Tarpy space, where moist dongles groove and know their place.
Oh, yeah.
Starships and games in a cosmic parade. Tarpy's corners where legends are made. Tarpy's corner shining bright, twinkling stars in the deep of night. Moist dongles gleaming, what a sight. Hold on tight, we're in for a flight. STFC tips that'll blow your mind.
Yep, that's Tarpy.
Warp speed facts you'll struggle to find. Moist dongles whisper secrets and schemes. Tarpy's corner ignites game and dreams. Galaxies spin and she takes her throne with cosmic insights that stand alone like a warp drive, pulse cutting through glue. Tarpy's leading us to gaming blue. Tarpy's corner shining bright, twinkling stars in the deep of night. Moist dongles gleaming, what a sight. Hold on tight, we're in for a flight.
All right.
Listen and learn in the stellar domain where Tarpy reigns in this podcast plane. Moist dongles to STFC know-how galore. Every corner opens a new gaming door.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Tarpy is here. Everybody, round of applause for Tarpy. All right.
Oh my gosh.
Now,
That was so awesome.
wasn't it? Here's the
Yeah.
thing. The chat is asking, how on earth do you explain these lyrics to the studio singers when they try to sing it? I am going to tell you right now that
don't.
the studio singers could not get through this without laughing
Without laughing?
for multiple hours. I have video clips of the studio singers losing their minds trying to sing these lyrics. It took them, according to Nigel, it took them over 2 hours to get through taping that 1 hour or 1 minute and 20 1
That's awesome.
minute and 20 seconds. It took them losing their minds to actually get through this. I can't say much more about where this came from. So, funny story, and I probably can't say this out loud. So, for those of you who don't know where we're getting these, Nigel is a music producer and works in film and television. All right. I mean, this is what he does. He's got staff of studio singers that are with him all the time. That's what they do. They produce music for shows, movies, TV, intros, themes, whatever. This song, all right, that instrumental was actually written for a television show, and the producers rejected it. So he had it, because I asked him about this the other day, and I'm like, that's really just an odd musical track. He was like, yeah, it was written for this show. It was designed, they wanted a playful, funky tune, and this show declined this particular one. So he and one of the studio singers played around with lyrics, and it took him about 20-30 minutes to write these lyrics, and then 2 hours to actually record it, because they kept laughing about it. This is all according to Nigel, who, by the way, gets to put all this together. I mean, he's got a new song for almost every show we do. Like, I mean, it's just kind of crazy how he does that. So it's so Domo. I thought they were AI in the very beginning too, and he was like, no, this is what I do for a living. And then he sent me on one of the tracks, I think it was the one for the cruise, he actually sent me some note or something from one of the singers who did it. And she said that she enjoyed listening to the show, and I thought that was really sweet. So they've actually got a sound studio. It's kind of awesome. So this one was no, Burton. I was going to say the name of the show is what I was going to say. I was going to actually give you the name of the project that declined it, but then I thought, okay, that's probably not the right thing to do. Probably not going to do that. That's right, TJ. I get the leftovers. Okay. Well, listen, I'm not paying for them. The studios are paying for them, and then he's just got those. So anyway, yeah, no, a lot of fun. Thank you, Nigel. I appreciate that. Nigel, what a great contributor to the show. I will also tell you this, Tarpy. When we're talking about Nigel, I'm just going to tell you guys right now, there is something massive coming on March 26th. And Nigel.
March 26th, people.
And Nigel made it happen. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it right there. Just going to leave it right there. Massive something in the game, Dr. Juby. Okay, in the game.
Wow. That's a big one right there. That's impressively large.
It's going to be massive. Okay? It's going to be massive. Huge. Anyway, just letting you guys know. Oh, TJ says, because I broke the stream in the first 20 minutes, I broke your stream streak. I'm sorry, bro. Not my fault. Blame Verizon. Call Verizon and be like, yo, you broke my stream streak on DJ's show. They'll know what it is.
You're the first to complain. First of many, I bet. So,
oh, yeah. Yeah, you're the first one that said anything. I'm sure there's going to be more. All right. Let's get into our teaching tonight. All right. Tarpy, you've had your jingle. Destros, you're on the stage as well. Playful, funky Tarpy is here.
You said it.
You changed
With
your
a
name.
glistening
All
moist
right.
dongle.
You're the one who changed your name, wasn't me. Let's talk about G5. This was something you guys have been prepping for a little while. The game's changed. So what is it that players are supposed to be watching for as they hit that magical ops 46, 47, 48? What should they be doing to prep into G5? Let's get into the show here, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to G5. Tarpy, what's next?
So, all right, I do want to preface all of this by saying thank you for the time, and thank you everyone who's not necessarily G5 for listening to this. A lot of this, as DJ said, has changed since we were there. It has changed in the last 3 months drastically. And, I just want to make sure that a lot of people can get something out of this going forward too. And Destros has put in so much work. So I want to thank him as well for doing as much as he's done to kind of get this moving. Um, so, all right. I think the other thing that I want to preface with is I got probably 24 DMs and people just in different chats talking to me about G5 in the last week. And thank you, everyone who has communicated with me about your experience in G5. What we did, instead of incorporating individual people before we even start, like within the presentation, is we actually incorporated some slides where we're going to try and bring in other viewpoints. Where, if that's all right with DJs, I do want to bring 1 or 2 people up on stage at various points where we have what's called chat check-ins for people who are not me, not Strider, who are both G6, not G6 players, to kind of say what they're planning on doing or what they're currently doing if they're in G5. So we do want to hear from people that are in the chat right now. So next slide, please, sir. I can't do the slides. You got it. Thank you. So G5, okay? And again, I know we have a G5 and G6 audience here, and we do have G4 players, and we have some G5, but G5 does not start at Ops 50. Just keep reminding people of that. It does start at 51. So you start refining G5 mats at 51, but you do get some G5 mats in your monthly chests when you are at Ops 50. But at 51, so you can see the timeline here for several of the ops in the 50s. You can see you do start refining G5. 52 is when you can build the first G5 mining ship. And 53 is when you can start building the faction warships for G5. So as they've been moving content a little bit forward, we've started seeing things built in the Ops 40, then Ops 42. This month is the first month with Ops 45 being a requirement, so we can probably start seeing more things start in these lower Ops 50 ops in the next 6 months. And I have no idea officially. I'm not NDA'd or anything. But I do want to point out that rare mats do start appearing in the Battle Pass at 53. And I remember when I was going to 53 and 54 and 55 almost a year ago at this point, that rare did not start in the Battle Pass until 55. That was a whole selling point for rushing to 55 back then. So just remember that they're making other changes too as we are kind of going through the middle of G5 and all of these other ops. At 56, so there's some other things that happen at 54 and 55, but at 56, you can build the G6 or G5 rares. We will talk about all of these ships in not a heck of a lot of detail, but we will talk about them in some detail. At Ops 58, you can build the faction miners. They're debatable at best, as the slide says, but at Ops 60, this is where you can build the G5 epics. And if you've been listening to DJ's stream for the last several months, we've been talking about how G5 epics tend to outperform G6 uncommon ships. And for a fairly long time, the G5 epics were where you won the game. Thank you for following Beyond Any Hope. So Op 60 is the last operations level in G5. So there's an asterisk that goes here. You will not collect any Sigma or G6 mats. The asterisk that goes here is unless you have the Revenant at a particular mark, you can get you can get 10 days worth of those evolution chests at Op 60 or below to get Sigma while you're in G5. But right now there's not too many other places that you can get a significant amount of Sigma in G5. If you go up enough faction rep, you can also get Sigma there, but the whole point of this is to talk about G5. So next slide again, please, sir. Okay, so the first part of this is if you are G4, and I'm kind of talking anywhere near maybe 45 plus in G4. Thank you for following. So if you are 46, 47, 48, what do you need to consider to go into G5? So I'm not going to talk about what tier faction ship you need. I'm not going to talk about what tier other ships you need to go into G5. But this is kind of thinking about what is the bare minimum you would need to be able to do at Ops 51 to be able to keep up with some of the grinds. Now, part of this presentation is also talking about what new grinds happen in G5 or how they're different in G5 than they are in G4. So what Destros and I have kind of put together is talking about how they're different. So if you've unlocked the ship already, we're not going to talk about how to unlock particular ships, but we will talk about how they're different in G5. So silent hostiles are kind of the biggest jump that have a specific ops range for a grind. And I'm trying to also follow the chat, but if you hear me pausing, it's because I have ADHD and I can't do both. So the idea with the silence is you need a ship that can kill the silent hostiles in the 51 to 54 system until you pick a different ship after that. So if your current ship, when you are Ops 46 through 50, can kill and, well, get to, first of all, and then kill the silent hostiles there enough to do a single or even double pull most days of the week, you're golden for going to G5. Okay. So that seems like not very many requirements, but that's pretty much right now one of the very few things that you need to actually be able to continue a grind that is relatively ops locked. So looking at mining, so people, when we were talking about this last weekend, we were talking about what were some of the hurdles, what were some of the questions you have for going into G5. People were worried about miners or mining. And it's been a consistent conversation point in DJ's Discord for the last 6 months or so about G5 miners. Do you need them? And we'll talk about that later. I don't think you need them. I don't own any, and I'm up 65. But you can start mining G5 as early as you can get to territory. So if your alliance has a 3-star territory, you can start mining G5 mats when you're Ops 22 or whatever. It won't go very fast, but you can do it. So you don't need a heck of a lot of warp range to get to the G5 mat that is in your alliance's territory. And you need a minimum warp range of 185. So Matters' question is, if you don't have a 3-star, the warp range minimum right now is 185 to get to the first 5-star nodes that are in territory spaces. Okay. So 185 is the first first couple spaces in G5. Sorry. So the G5 silent systems, your warp range needs to be 220, and the Dominion Luke space. So I say lucrative space, and this will be very dependent on your server's ROE for whether or not those spaces are protected. And you can also mine G5 in the Delta Quadrant. That might be, the warp range there might be a little bit lower. So yeah, Benny Hills Ghost says the Nikon system. And can you put the warp range in there if you look it up real quick? So 205. So the lowest warp range for G5 is still either territory if you have a 3-star territory, or the first nodes in the G5 space, which are 185. So you can use Aphesia, you can use relatively high tier G4 faction miners with all of the mining bonuses that are out available in the game for G4 and G5 players through the mirror, through various other places. You don't need a lot of mining to happen. And the mining rate difference between a G4 miner and a Nova, it's there, but compared to the difference between a G5 miner and a G6 miner, it is not different at all. So I think next slide, please. So this is the first kind of moment that we have for what I was terming with Destros as a chat check-in. So the idea here is I also have the Google Slides open. So I think what I can do is I can be typing on my version of the slide while we have it open on Twitch. And is there anybody who would like to, let's see, talk about their experience in G5 with mining?
And while we're waiting on someone to raise their hand, I would volunteer my experience, and that is I did not build any G4 miners because I had the luxury of having almost the entire time through G4 having 2 out of the 3 uh, G4 3-star territories before they added the G5 in there. So when I went to G5, I built a Nova, and I built one. And that has served me well. But the only reason it has served me well is because token space is not protected on our server, and I OPC hunt like crazy. So if I was on a server that had protected nodes and whatnot, I probably would have built 2 Novas. Because at the point, even at the point when I entered G5, I still had not naturally gotten the blueprints for the G4 miners. I still don't have enough blueprints for any of the G4 miners, and I wasn't willing to spend any faction credits on them.
Okay, so for the podcast or any recordings of this, Putz, please remind us of where you currently are in the game.
Oh, sorry. I am currently Ops 59. I started G5 November. The first week of November is when I went to Ops 51. And so that's how quick it has been for me. And I wasn't saving up and I wasn't stocking up. I have just tried to do this as fast as possible with what I got. So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Cool. Okay. Hey, Wolfwood. You got a minute? You can yeet yourself onto the stage. There you are.
Hello, hello, hello.
All right. So who are you and what ops are you?
My name is Wolfward37, and I am currently Ops 53 as of 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Jumped from 50 to 53.
Sweet. All right. So do you mine?
Yes, I do mine. I currently use yes, I have 2 miners pretty much going constantly right now just to build up my reserves. I have a Nova mining, tier 2 Nova mining gas and crystal. and I have a Voltivore G4 miner mining ore in G5 land.
Cool. Okay. So you built your Nova pretty much right away at going to 51?
Yep. When I went during the process of going from 50 to 53, I built the Nova. Only have it at tier 1 right now, but I'm only sending it to my TC territories to mine gas and crystal. Don't need the warp range as of yet.
Cool.
So that's why I
And
use no, go ahead. Sorry.
Nope. Go for it.
I was saying, and I use my G4 miner to go out into G5 space to mine ore. And that one is nearly maxed.
Okay. Cool. So you're relatively new G5. You don't quite need the warp range yet, and you're just kind of catching up on being able to do full pulls. Does that sound
Pretty
about
much,
right?
yeah. I do at least a single pull every time, double pulls on occasion, and then save up when I can do a triple pull.
So for you and Putz, so Putz is still relatively new. I mean, G5 went very fast. Do you find that the amount in your refinery pulls is at all comparative with what you get from events?
It's tiny.
Yes and no.
I get
Some days I get lucky and it can match a daily event, and some days I can just completely whiff and not get any uncommon at all.
And
But I do get rares. I only get rares from the events at the moment.
and I can concur to that. Like when I was early G5,
Yeah, so no
uh,
rares in my refineries as of yet.
yeah, I was like, oh, events. I get the stuff I need. Now that my refinery is level 59, I mean I'm pulling triple pulls, and I'm not getting on average per day what I would get in one event, overall for, that type. Um, so I would say the events and the choice tokens are, and the other places that you pull mats, like all of the other refineries, are much better than the G5 mat refinery itself.
So just so I'm commenting on. I've just gotten a couple DMs. Um, Apparently, some of the people on stage can't hear each other, which is an interesting tech issue. Um, so, Wolf, you didn't talk over anybody. So just mentioning that. So Matt refines have been garbage forever. Yeah, part of me is just trying to normalize the idea that the refineries have not kept up with the inflation elsewhere. So just for players that are looking at going up a generation, regardless if it's G3 to G4, G4 to G5, G5 to G6, the refinery might not mean much. So maybe the mining doesn't mean much for a while either. So if you don't have the miners, don't stress. So refinery doesn't really matter for Chris's Ops 42 alt. So new ad break. So then Met refines are garbage. So they mine 3 days a month using Dominion space, using one Nova. So I think really what to take away from this is that mining is not as important as it used to be if that is something that is not important to your playstyle. So you can probably do just fine without a lot of high tier G4 miners. You can probably use Aphesia just to get your dailies done if you're worried about the rep and the credits from the faction dailies. All right, I'm going to give it another about 30 seconds for the Twitch chat to move on before I move on to the next thing. I'm just seeing if anybody has any last parting thoughts. Yeah, so the mats and ship part refinery really stink. Agree, Darius. So hopefully the for Ops 45 plus, the Solo Waves faction favors really help with the at least the parts. Let's see. Refinery pulls need to be better. They used to be worse, actually. So if you think about it, they used to be worse because of the Bajoran faction. Okay, so next slide, please, DJs. And I did put the link, and I pinned the link for the presentation in the chat. So if people do want to watch me update as we're going, please do. So kind of during G5, there are a few roadblocks. So just kind of going from 51 to 60, at the right-hand side of this, you can see all of the buildings that need to be at a particular level for you to go to the ops level that is in the light grayish teal color that's at the top. So if you want to go to ops 51, your academy needs to be at 50, your shipyard and R&D, that makes sense, those need to be at 50. So if you look going down from each of those columns, your buildings need to be, those particular buildings need to be at those levels to go to those next levels. Okay. So there are checkpoint buildings for progression in each ops. This should not be a surprise by now because this follows very similar patterns to G4. I do remember some points in G5 that it was like, why are you making me do this building in this order? So do be aware as you are going through G5, there are some very odd moments where you're like, I don't know why. And yeah, we all have to do all those dang precious generators, as Maxenheimer says, that literally do nothing on the scale of resources that we either need or get from other events these days. And you do need ACC at, and it's hard to tell with the border around the screen, but you do need your ACC at 45 to go to to 51. So you need your ACC at 45 to go to 51, and then you need your ACC at 50 to go past 56. Okay, so there are various points where you do need to keep up your ACC. Now, there's not, as far as I remember, research to decrease the number of cores that you need to go through and update each of those buildings. But where you can get those cores is from turning in G3 through G4, and once you are in G5 FKR Armada chests. So if you are not doing Armadas, as in group Armadas with your team, and you are considering trying to get through the second half of G5 in a relatively fast time frame, you are going to want, so rare cores are not in G3, but I have been reading the chat in DJ's Discord that says that the common cores are actually a problem for people now as well. So as this game is moving faster, and as people are being able to get through more ops more quickly, some buildings like the ACC are actually going to be one of the things that holds you up. And another one that's kind of sneaky is the shuttle bay, because a lot of us don't necessarily need, after a while, to do all of the away teams research. So we don't necessarily build the shuttle bay to make the away teams research go faster. And so there's not really other efficiencies for that other than you need the ore to go through and update your ship or your shuttle bay as well. So this is just something to think about. If you are a human that is looking at your gameplay and saying, I want to go through G5 in 10 days. I have spoken to a player in the last 2 weeks who did in fact go from G4 ops to G6 in 10 days with minimal money spent because the person had so many mats accumulated and the ability to jump that fast with a bunch of efficiencies that it's just different planning now. It is just very different planning than when most of us were in G5 a year ago, 6 months ago, 2 years ago. Okay. So, a comment that I did see. So, if you again hear me pause, it's because I get distracted by something. Thank you for making me squirrel. That as you start progressing through G5, oh, thank you for the raid. As you start progressing through G5, solo whatever group armadas you can as early as you can. So if your alliance is cool with it and you're not, I don't just I don't quite know how to express this part, but if you are able to solo a bunch of group armadas, it's easier for your pulls to get through to do that. Now, one of the things that was fantastic for my progression through G5 that I would buy again if I could, and I had the money and ability to do that again, was the G3 through G5, or it's G4 and G5 Armada Prime, and that adds a pull on every one of your faction Armada pulls. Has your gameplay improved after the officer promotion? So a comment about the armadas. So even if you can't solo them, sometimes the start chest for those armadas will be absolute key for getting the amount of loot. So no, Lexel, it's not less necessary. I said it was something that I valued that made my time in G5 better. So there's a question in chat that is, why is it helpful to solo the Armada? So there's 2 ways to get loot from any of these armadas, and often we say it's the start chest that is the bulk of the loot. As of right now, there are no ways to modify the amount of loot that you get in the start chest. So if you are sending a ship if you are sending, for example, either a Voyager or perhaps an NXL-1 to a level 60 FKR Epic, compared to the ships that are doing the bulk of the damage on the armadas, you are not going to get very much of the loot if you are just going by damage. But if you are the one starting the armada, you get the guaranteed start chest for the armada and some of the damage. Not a lot. Okay. So there was someone who mentioned Anorax. Anorax does not change the amount in armada loot chests. He is so far, and they've said they might change his ability, but it does not count for armadas as of right now. So yes, Lexel, ship power splits the loot. I know, but you're still doing less damage in a smaller ship, probably. So if you are sending a small ship to a large armada, you are not getting a significant amount of the loot. So you want to send a small ship, if that's what you have, to the armada, get the start chest, and probably not a heck of a lot of the loot based on ship power. But if you can solo it, you get the start chest and the loot. Okay? So the idea here is if you can get your eviscerator, and for everyone who knows, I hate saying the right name for that ship. I did it. If you can get an eviscerator to get players out to those systems, when they might not have the warp range on one of their ships yet, that can help them get more Armada loot to really get that Armada chest going. So you get ship blueprints from those Armada chests. You get a bunch of stuff out of those chests throughout your time in G4 and G5 that are helpful. Okay. All right. So the last thing that I do want to point out that we added onto this slide, as I'm kind of looking at more of the feedback in the chat, is the core for the exocomp building. It says in game that I'll get there, Matters. Thank you. So it says in game that yes, you can get this thing to take your exocomp factory to the next tier, and no, you can't. It is not out yet or ever, perhaps. Okay. So people ask this once a week or so in DJ's chat, and we're all like, yep, yeah, it's frustrating. It doesn't exist. It says it should, but it doesn't. So just be aware that no, your exocomp factory doesn't keep going after 51. Okay. So just some of the last comments I see from the chat are, don't forget the Vindicator exists. So I think, let me look ahead a bit. So Destros will talk a bit more about the Vindicator. So he will also talk about the support ships as we are going through. So, all right. Any last comments on some of these just stumbling blocks along the way? All right, Plugster, that is going to be much later as well. That is in here. Okay. Next slide, please, sir. Okay. So, research. Okay. So, this whole thing with I'm a completionist. I have alliance mates, server mates, people I've seen around just say, I'm a completionist. I'm going to complete everything. And I just every time I see that, I'm like, you know what? Good for you. That is a choice. I would not make that choice for my game. Okay. And it just wouldn't work for my game. So on the bottom of this slide, it's a little bit hard to read just because of the size. When you go to 51 from 50, there are, let's see, I think that's 176 new researches that show up in your game. And I'm going to give an average number for this. Okay. I'm going to give an average number, 136. Thank you, Maxenheimer. So for 136 researchers, most of those are somewhere between 5 and 10 levels. Okay. And for those, for the average-ish research that I have on the second half of those trees, and I'm up 65, my efficiencies are reasonably good from the research and artifacts that I have. You can assume that most of those researches are going to be about 100 days. So if you assume that about half of the researches that show up in G5 are about 100 days each, I did some math. It is 20.5 million lat worth of speedups that you would need to get through approximately half of the G5 researches that show up as a possibility between 51 and 60. So the idea here is that being a completionist for all of your research in G5 is absolutely a waste of resources and mats and time and speedups and lat. Okay? So there's other ways to think about this if you want to look at Spock's Club. So if you don't use Spock's Club, it is an absolutely amazing resource for all sorts of things in this game. Look at the research percentages for how much is this research actually going to impact my gameplay. So if you have something that's 1,000% already, is adding 5 or 10% more really going to help you? Yes, every bit helps, but 5% after 1,000% is not that much. So when you're looking at all the G4 and G3 and G5 research that you could complete, it might not be worth the mats to do that. Okay. So Belair comments in the chat that yes and no, officer spends events are a huge factor. And yes, they are, but it's something to kind of balance with how fast you want to progress your operations as well as your ships. When the amount of mats that you put into a particular efficiency may actually not save you more G5 mats while you're in G5 than it costs you to put into them. So you could use them for spend events, but you really might want to be looking at Spox Club and thinking about, will these help me long term? Yes. Will they help me short term for anything more than a few points on a spend event? Maybe not.
And Tarpy, you can actually have the best of both worlds here, kind of. Just use previous generation researches for your spend events, right? Like I'm still doing G4 researches like crazy, which are less time consuming to run, and they score less, but I'm still blowing through a bunch of those, and that's what I'm using primarily a lot to score. It takes a while, but I don't have to, like instead of completing everything before you go, jump ahead, get more resources and mats, and then go back and do it. That there's two ways to play it.
Yeah. So a lot of people in the chat right now are saying, yeah, use the previous generation's worth of mats in the next generation. And so that's one of the last slides we have in this is kind of thinking ahead. And also in Jules Verne's absolutely amazing presentation from a few months ago, going to G6, that helped me a lot. That helped Strider a lot. So a lot of people still say focus on efficiencies for improved gameplay. So if you, one of the comments that Destros had for this slide was, you know what? If you're unshielded and you're G4 or low G5 or most of G5 and a 70 comes by and wants to crack your base, almost no amount of base defense research is going to save you. A shield will, unlike DJs. A shield will save you, but research will not help you when a 70 with a maxed or near maxed NT wants to open your base. So maybe the defense platform research is something that you can save until the next generation when you no longer need those rare mats for ships and you no longer need those rare mats for station research. So a lot of people kind of just do the bare minimum of research to try and get out of G5. Yeah, so it's exactly everybody in the chat. I was using a 70 as the very obvious example, but yeah, many lower ships can crack smaller bases regardless of their research. So I also the last thing on this slide is I want to point out that I said most of the researches are about 100 days, but most of your buildings, once you're in G5, and we don't have enough efficiency in the game yet to really change this significantly. A lot of your buildings are also in the 70 to 100 day range. So the more officer stats that you get to do the away team's away team thing that gets you lat, that is approximately 1 research a day of mats of lat is about 30,000 lat. So 100-day research or 100-day building gets you 1 research of 30,000 lat. So I'm just trying to use that as if you are a completionist, you might be wasting a lot of lat. Okay, we have an ad for 2.5 minutes. So I will So ops buildings are multiple hundreds of days. So that's hundreds of thousands of lat if you don't have good efficiency. What?
I was gonna say hum the Jeopardy theme song.
You don't want me to do that. It would break so many people's eardrums if I tried to do that.
You can't anyway. It's copyright. You can only get like
I mean,
one
I can
hum in.
hum it, but I could make DJs pay for it.
Or we could take a break.
That works. Do that.
We'll be right back. When life takes an unexpected turn, you need someone who will fight for you. At Musgrove Trial Firm, we stand up for Georgians in the courtroom and beyond. From personal injury to wrongful death, we bring experience, compassion, and relentless dedication to every single case. Justice isn't just a goal, it's our mission. Visit musgrovetrialfirm.com and let us fight for what matters most to you. Call Buddy at 678-226-1994. That's 678-226-1994. Commanders, in the vast universe of Star Trek Fleet Command, understanding the rules of engagement is crucial. At pvptarget.com, our comprehensive guide ensures you navigate battles with honor. Learn the importance of protected cargo and why attacking a ship under its limit is deemed by some as an act of war. Discover which vessels are classified as warships and what ranges of ships you can attack. Find tips on crewing, mining, and the battle triangle, and so much more. Equip yourself with knowledge to engage responsibly. Visit pvptarget.com and become the commander your alliance deserves.
This program is made possible in part by a grant from Reese's Monkey Peanut Butter Cups. Creamy peanut butter and zesty monkey. Two great tastes in one great candy
March Madness is here, and if you're like most men, you're about to lose time and money filling out NCAA brackets.
Yeah, I like Gonzaga, but I'm not sure if their region is too tough.
Let's face it, 9 times out of 10, your office pool gets won by a secretary who's never watched a basketball game in her life. That's why we invented Bracket Babes, the service that connects you with a woman who knows absolutely nothing about college basketball.
What state is the University of North Carolina in?
At Bracket Babes, our experts employ the same time-honored tests that have proven to win year in and year out.
I like Villanova because their uniforms have blue in them.
And sound reasoning that's not to be questioned.
Michigan is called the Wolverines? That reminds me of Hugh Jackman, and he's cute.
Don't let your month get ruined by March Madness.
I can't believe the ref blew that call.
Get Bracket Babes and get lucky.
Oh, wow, I won? I totally forgot I even entered.
And now, spring break postcards from the 1700s.
My beloved, it's been a fortnight since we last spoke, and my travels have taken me to Florida, where the beer floweth and the wet t-shirt contests abound. There are multitudes of perky college breasts far beyond the horizon, but it is your bosom that stays with me wherever I go. I know my absence has been hard on you, but I too have been stricken by a burning sensation, especially when I pee. Be strong, my love, for when I return, all your troubles will be erased, like this tattoo on my face I don't remember getting. Nothing can keep our love apart, aside from these handcuffs the police have me in. But once I am free, I will streak home to you, this time with clothes on so I don't get busted again.
Did you ever have one of those situations where you're standing with a bunch of reporters around and the next thing you know, you got this piece of apparatus sticking you right in the kisser? You know, that only happened to me once, and, you know, I don't like microphones in my face. Let me tell you about it. Talking to reporters, that itself is a drag. When a lady from NPR gave me a fuzzy attack, got bumped in the face, that was my cue to give her that look that says there was not a nice thing to do. Smacked by a mic boom. Just recently, I was smacked by a mic boom. Oh, and now that her equipment is filled with my drool, let me politely say the news media is filled with fools. It was really inappropriate what they did with that microphone. I think somebody should pay. Somebody should pay.
Welcome back, everybody.
niggas see you cannot stand it. All I know the flow harder than a scotch.
Thank you. Welcome back to Talking Track.
Say what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.
Talking Track is Star Trek Fleet Command's official podcast. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. Welcome back from our first break. And as we have been kind of discussing and wading our way through for the first hour and a half of the show, it is the ultimate entry guide to G5 as presented by Tarpy and Destros with assistance from the other Talking Trek panelists and Lab Rats. Tarpy, welcome back to the stage. You were talking about the completionist mental attitude right there before we took our first break. Let's dive right back in.
Well, thank you. I think I'm done with that slide. Any last comments on being a completionist in G5?
Don't do it!
Right.
If it's anything like being a completionist in G4, I'll be fine.
Oh, no, it's worse. It is so much worse. So much worse. Okay. So, next slide, please, sir. I'm just waiting because Twitch is always slow for me. Sweet. Okay. So, just like there was in G4. Oh, thank you, Dr. Iron Chef. So just like there was in G4, there's a research-specific currency in G5 that is called cosmic particles. So you get those starting at 51. You're going to have access to the slideshow. So if you look at, I think the pin is still there. Yes, you do have access to the slides. So cosmic particles, you get those starting at 51. They have recently increased the amount that you get. So if you look at the bottom of this slide, it shows you actually an Op 61 or Op 62's Pinnacle of Power rewards. So I put a little no through the hazard particles that you do not get through G5. You get those in G6. But you do see you get the rhodinium particles from G4. You get 4 different types of intelligence. Those didn't used to be there. Those didn't used to be there before December when they updated the dailies. And you also get the cosmic particles there. So those are in the station tree that shows up when you get to G5. And these have, in the very first half of them, there are a lot of efficiency researches. So there's efficiency for themselves, so you can use cosmic particles to spend fewer cosmic particles. But you can also do efficiencies through, that one is Fleet Commander Sloan. So that one might be a little bit more impactful than the one in this research tree. So this is my research tree that you can see here where I am at 65. And it took me 8 months to go through G5, and I've been collecting these particles ever since I went to G5 in February. And I am half done with this research tree. So I'm just showing you the efficiency, even half of the efficiency part that has Matt's efficiency for station, Matt's efficiency for research, resources efficiency for station and research. It has specialty building efficiency. It has generator efficiency where you can hold more stuff in your generators, everyone. Isn't that wonderful? But later in the tree has scrapping efficiency. So you really, really, really want to do that node as soon as you can get to it. And you want to max that node as soon as you can get to it. There are ship parts efficiencies. There are ship mats efficiencies. There are repair efficiencies. And then there's like station and base cracking efficiency or ability enhancement, whatever that is, later in that cosmic particle tree. So something to think about as people go through G5 a lot faster. So I said I've been G5 or higher for just over a year. And I'm half done with that tree. And I will be clear, I don't have all the efficiencies done, but even if I did, I wouldn't be significantly further through that tree. So as G5 goes faster and as it's possible to go through G5 faster, be aware. And yes, thank you, Kaviji. The entrepreneurial spirit in the Terran faction store has the best efficiency research for the cosmic particles and rhodinium. So I didn't bother with that one yet because I just didn't. And I clearly forgot about it. So thank you. I'm adding that right away. And the what?
Sorry, I just wanted to add the intelligence research for the that will eventually let you unlock the
I'm getting there.
ways,
That's
right?
next. Yep.
Okay,
That's
cool.
next.
Okay, I'll wait then.
Thank you. Thank you, Kaviji. So as G5 goes faster and faster, make sure to prioritize those efficiency researches so that way you are not getting to Op 65 like I am, where the cosmic particles actually go away out of your dailies. So if you are not done, the acquisition of those particles goes down significantly as you get further and further. So at 61 through 64, you still get those particles. At 65 plus, you do not get those outside of the third box in your dailies. The third claim in the horizontal row, not any of the vertical ones. So I'm just looking at Ice Wolf picking on Dr. Iron Chef, and it's wonderful. Anyway, the other part, so cosmic particles are fantastic. The other part of G5 that was a little bit confusing when I first got there is exactly what Putz just brought up, which was the intelligence that you get that you then trade in for faction intelligence. So up until a few months ago, you got just the raw intelligence, and the faction intelligence had to come from the raw intelligence. When they did the dailies update in December, they did add faction intelligence to your daily as well in the Pinnacle of Power event. So you do have access to more raw intelligence as well as the faction intelligence that shows up in your F. So each of your FKR factions, you will see once you hit G5 a box that lets you convert the raw intelligence to a specific faction's intelligence. So those faction intelligence, so either Federation, ROM, or Klingon, you can use those in a couple different places. And I've listed them here in, and yeah, I did say you do get more raw to convert, Divine. So the first place you want to go is the combat tree. And that has researches that get you towards the G5 superhighways. The G5 superhighways are actually really useful in cutting down warp time from, say, your bases in territory, and you want to get out to run a level 60 armada. You can fairly soon into G5 get these G5 superhighways that will get you there in approximately half the time, dependent on your ship and your warp speed research. So the other nice thing about those G5 superhighways is the fact that it decreases the warp range for the far end. So it takes the warp range for where it dumps you out in G5 space and puts it at approximately the warp range of the space that you entered the superhighway from. And what I use that for is grinding jellyfish on G5 hostels where the jellyfish couldn't have gotten there on its own, or other faction ships that couldn't get to G5 space on their own either. So when you go through to do this in the faction space or in the faction menus, you go through and you claim it for a particular type of faction intelligence. You go over to the combat tree, and you have to do a certain level of these researches at a bare minimum to get the superhighways. So the Fed one gets you access to Gorn space, so the G5 Gorn space that's up tucked under the G5 Fed space. The number of researches that you have to do is 3 for the first one, 1 for the second one, 4 for the third one, and 1 for the fourth one. So I've put a 3141 in the screenshot that is on the slide for this. So this is slide 7 that's going to be in the slides for this presentation. You can see the minimum number of researchers for each line of faction resources that you would need to get to the final superhighway.
And here's
So-
where I wanted to point out something is that pre-December, the only way to get the raw intelligence was to hit the 25 hostels, faction hostels or whatever, to do that little mini daily and I think maybe like one other place. I did not have enough intelligence of any type to do a single one of those researches until December.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So I just because I don't hit high faction ships. I do my grinding, my rep grinding in the mirror universe. I do my daily hostels in freebooters. So I was just resigned to being like, okay, I'm never going to really unlock those. I don't really care. But once they changed that, okay, I have unlocked all of them, and I did it in less than 60 days.
Yep. And so those highways are amazing. Like they cut down so much. And please, 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 someone clip that. Okay? Someone clip that where he said he didn't have enough intelligence to do something. So that is just anyway. So Butts needs to reevaluate what he's done with his life. Yeah, no. So what you do, so after you finish those super highways, because they save the most time in your game, I wouldn't necessarily do the next one. So the next one is away team assignments. I was trying to say alliance tournament, but we have too many ATs now. So away team assignments for Alliance exocomps. So once you get into G5, you have access to more Alliance exocomps. So in your away teams, you'll have the option of spending faction intelligence of a particular faction to get a particular type of Alliance exo. Those exos refresh once a day, so you can try and do that one that day if you have enough faction intelligence. So Putz didn't have enough intelligence to do the superhighways. He probably also wasn't getting any of the Alliance exos. And those Alliance exos, most of them are not very good. The research and building efficiency ones are still pretty good for most of the ops out there. Okay. So they cost, let me look in my game real fast for exactly how much those ones cost. Of the faction intelligence, I took the screenshot but just didn't include it.
Yeah, I don't put enough intelligence now for those.
5,500. Right? Yeah. So they are 5,500 faction intelligence for a 3-day away team assignment. And again, most of those away team assignments are not, most of the exos that come from them are not super useful. I like the impulse speed one, the warp speed one you can get from your monthly or weekly chests. And I like Research Alliance EXO and the Research Build EXO, retrieving exactly. So those, I do like 2 of them if they come up, and they don't come up very often. I see them maybe once a month. So the next thing that you can, okay, Kaviji, good point. Skinny Mud, if you want the exos, he's 3 traits for all of them. And Caledon says the 300% PvP is something that they use in arenas. So again, I don't PvP much, so I tend to ignore that one. And I also haven't had a grand excess of faction intelligence until relatively recently. to do exactly this last one, which is the Nova mining skins. Now, I already said, yeah, mining isn't that important. I have decided in my period of G6 that I'm going to go and collect the skins that are free that keep my scroll in the FKR factions shorter, because I need to scroll all the way down to the G6 stuff, which is annoying. So I have been trying to get rid of the Retrieving didn't know the Research Alliance XO exists. Yeah, it's not it doesn't come up much. So the Nova mining rate skins, they're it's 250%. It's not all that much. So if you didn't build a Nova, you don't need the skins. I have 2 Novas. I only maxed mine once I was in G6. My Novas were in I kept my Novas at T4 while I was in G5. Yeah, I don't mind the scrolling so much that the scout messages turn in as in yellow because of the favor. I still don't like scrolling because I realize that it's 5 to 10 extra seconds multiple times a day for multiple factions, so I just like to avoid it. So every box that I can make go away, including Nova mining rate skins. I'm sorry, Irish Jack. I still have miners out most of the time. Don't hate me. So the Nova mining rate skins, they're there. They would have been a lot better 10 months ago when we didn't have all the mining bonuses we have, and all the FTs, exactly, Lord of Scarin. They were good when G5 came out and you couldn't mine very fast because you couldn't put resources or mats onto a Nova, so the mining skins helped mine G5 at a reasonable pace when G5 and the Novas first came out. So now that we don't need them, they're cheap. Isn't that great? Okay. So the next slide is approximately where Destros starts to take over for a bit. So the next part is talking about all the ships. So my last kind of comment on the ships is that G5 is, and you'll see this throughout a lot of Destros's part, is a lot about closing the loop. This is a really a thing that my work uses for assessment a lot, is how do you close the loop? So the all of G5, you can see you don't currently unlock any new specialty ships in G5. So we're, like I said earlier, we're not there yet, but you have a whole bevy of potential faction ships that you can get while you're in G5. But that just means to me that you can close out a lot of specialty ship loops while you're in G5 that you likely started while you're in G4. And because of things like the IA, all of those loops get, not yet divine, all of those loops get a little bit easier. So G4 is a whole poo show of a lot of loops and just loops. But G5, something that I valued about it is that it gives you the chance to really close out some of those loops. So Destros is going to handle the next bunch of slides, and I will come back right near the end.
Alrighty, so it's my turn, guys. So yeah, what we have on the screen right now is just kind of like to show you guys that the game really begins in G4, because G3 is all about the training ground, getting to learn how to play the game. It's where things got maybe exciting for some people, maybe boring for others, maybe somewhere in between. G4 is where Scopely was like, hey guys, we're done with G3. We've said it a lot out here on the podcast. You know, G3's got sunset years ago. Everything came out 40s. Then, in the fall of last year, they started releasing 42 plus. Now we're up to 45 plus. Who knows if they're going to keep pushing that boundary? Maybe before the year is over, we see that G5 is where other content's coming out. But something I did want to use this slide to show you guys is we really have several different kind of waves or segments of specialty ships. right? Like these first set of specialty ships. Oops, picked it up. These real like first few sets of specialty ships we got, they weren't that great, right? Like that's the Franklin A, the Devor, Stella, you know, like those guys back like before even I started playing, those were the ships that came out. And they were great for what they were doing. But then as G4 came along and these real big FKR ships came along, they kind of became less useful. So then we got the next generation of specialty ships where it's the Vidar Talios, the Voyager, the Defiant. Uh, I'd say that generation of specialty ships kind of came all the way up until we got to the Borg Cube, where these are ships that, because they're epics, they have a lot of inherent power in them, and they traverse generations in kind of the way that the Discovery did, where they have their content in both areas, and as a ship, they can function in both areas. And now, post Borg Cube, we're starting to see that same concept applied, but on a bigger scale. Where like the Borg Cube, everybody's favorite ship in the game, especially DJs in Arena, it goes all the way up to Op 70. And while this latest generation of specialty ships doesn't go all the way up there, their effectiveness starts from when they're built all the way through the game. And that's kind of what caused this guide to get delayed, is because I was ready to put this out when the Vindicator came out. And the very next month they said, oh, by the way, here's the Revenant. Now all of your materials problems and even some of your resource problems are gone. And I was like, well, got to go back to the drawing board. And right after that, they gave us the relativity, which is like, well, now ship blueprints and even other things are less of a problem. And then we got this month our beloved ship parts converter, which really before they released the Voyager, you were kind of stuck just waiting on ship parts. So if we go ahead and traverse the next slide, DJs, now we'll start talking about how these specialty ships impact your gameplay in G5 land, where they were previously in G4 land. So we'll start off with the Voyager. This bad boy used to be the furthest going ship that we had in the game, and it was at the time the greatest source for any ship parts because it had guaranteed payouts and they weren't in small quantities. Um, but when you get into G5, this is where things get tricky because its op lock is not only 51, but the moment you tick it over into that new generation, you stop getting ship parts for the previous generation. So if you're somebody who wants to use the ship refinery to get yourself ship parts to finish off some of those ships you might have built or might have been using, that's something you want to consider before you take it up into G5 land. Um, this is one of the few specialty ships we have where it only has a generational lock. It doesn't have individual ops locks like its brother, the Talios. So once you hit 51 with this guy, you can go all the way to the top of it, which is good for some people, but just remember the refinery does change once you go over and you can't go backwards. Um, like many of the specialty ships, it has good and bad. This one, gigantic warp range, um, and its speed and its ability can definitely get you some stuff, right? Like we remember the days of using the commerce insignias to get those ship parts, which now we don't have to because of the IA, the independent archives, giving us mastery and closing out that loop and letting us do it daily. But you know those benefits still apply even to today. We can go ahead and go over to the next one, which is going to be that Vidar Talios. This is one of those ships that when you bring it into G5 land, um, is when it really starts to get its power, its warp range, and its ability to do things for you outside of its loop. It's pretty decent at early to mid G5 PvP if that's what you're into, and it can replace the necessity for a interceptor early on in G5. Not necessarily so much later on in G5 because they will struggle with some power problems, but um, the issue with this guy is that until we got the independent archives, you kind of were stuck still grinding probes or still doing the Borg cube, the Borg spheres or the mega cubes, because they are almost every single Borg officer can be sourced through this guy. Some of them faster than others. So this loop for continued payouts still has a lot of benefits. This is how you get your Borg Queens shards daily. This can be how you get some 5 of 11, some Hugh, some Dzok, some Galenor, all these officers who were good in PvP in their day are all coming from here. Unfortunately, with this guy, you don't get its mastery until 58. So the fact that it is actually an ops locked ship, not a generational lock ship, does mean that its independent archive is going to be maybe more useful to you in getting the ship tiered up faster. And if we go on to the next one, what we got going on here is everybody's favorite, the Monavine. This guy is got some of the most versatile application to our game that we saw in its time, with its refinery giving us boatloads of materials, boatloads of resources, and then the refit coming out that applied those same things into G6 space. Um, this ship also packs a surprising amount of power that can definitely function as a very good ship in G5. As you guys see, I'm talking about whether or not a specialty ship can be used in lieu of faction ships in G5, because that is something that, as Tarpy was talking about, can help your progression. If you're trying to, get through G5 quickly, these are some ships that, while they may be older ships, they definitely can serve the function of, an explorer, an interceptor, or battleship. Um, as you're progressing through your G5 time. The fantastic thing about this ship's independent archive mastery is that the moment you max that out, you get more than you could ever physically grind out of its mastery track, because it gives you full pulls of all of its stuff every single day. No human on Earth could grind that, because you just can't get enough queen favors in a day. Now we can head over to the specialty ships that are intended for support. And we'll start off with the Defiant. The grind for this guy should more or less be done for you by now, because the ship itself may not be leveled and tiered up, but the ease at which you can get fragments to keep its refinery going should be a breeze by now. Those Jem'Hadar shouldn't really be giving you a trouble in G5 anymore. So this ship quickly becomes less useful for its loop than it does for its ability, which we talk about all the time, using the Define support uh, through its research tree to go ahead and boost you, giving you more damage, more ability to do solo armadas, group armadas, and that thing we never talk about. And this ship does enhance the Bajoran faction, where it'll start giving you more currencies for being able to maintain that very early income of G6, G5 materials and G5 ship parts. And it also grants us some of the, even to this day, still top of the line Armada crew officers in Cisco and O'Brien, who even, in our most recent content, as far as like the Revenant and the Krenum Formatas go, those guys are still valuable even to this day. So the fact that this ship starts in G4, and once you tick over to G5, it starts giving you thousands upon thousands of materials and ship parts, is another thing that is going to be very key to you being able to progress through G5 at a good and reasonable pace, and not, spend year or year and a half trying to get through, scraping by on bits and pieces. Once, as long as you maintain this guy going, it's going to be fantastic. And we can go ahead and go to the next slide, DJs. Now we're going to talk about the Cerritos and the Titan. Both of these guys are absolutely vital in G5 and in G6 land. Don't sleep on getting these guys going. Like, the Cerritos boost and those Titan fortifications are something we talk about almost every single time we're talking about trying to punch up in any content. And if you're somebody who's trying to skip ships, you're definitely going to need that punch up power of the Cerritos boosts, the Titan fortifications. And these are rather expensive passive grinds. We know we get the Cerritos event once a week. The Titan, we kind of have to play around with our juice, and are we going to use it to keep getting materials to keep its refinery going daily, or are we going to save those max forts for when we want to punch up in content and then just take ship progression as we go? The nice thing about both of these guys is once you start pumping out those researches and really getting those support abilities going, they make a lot of other content in your game just so much easier to do. Uh, we saw the difference, when Griffin was trying to obliterate a 70 Revenant Solo Armada that using the Cerritos and using the Titan did when he tried not to do it just off of the ship's raw power. So don't sleep on these guys. And there is inherent synergy in using them both together through its research tree. And they do source officers, the Cerritos sources officers, which in today's game don't have nearly as much impact because of power inflation. But the Titans refinery is something that we've talked about, where it gives you fleet commander materials to do not only the daily, but to actually progress your fleet commanders and getting their abilities leveled up, uh, getting them and themselves leveled up. So definitely don't sleep on maintaining the refineries going. And now we'll kind of transition into the next era of your specialty ships. And the first one we're going to talk about is the NX-01 and how it impacts G5 life. The NX-01 is very similar to the Voyager in that it has a insanely high warp range for what you can do, which allows you, like Tarpy was talking about, to go into those deep G5 spaces and start level 60 armadas and get, those big starter chests, which can be a very big portion of why you're able to progress or why you're not able to progress is if you can keep those armada refineries going for things like getting those rare tactical cores or the normal tactical cores. They also, armadas, like we've talked about, give you officer sourcing, ship sourcing. So, and the NX-01 is also extremely vital in fueling favors. As we know, once you have the NX-01 going, you can start pulling those G4, G5, G6 mega chests that unlock at each generation and upgrade throughout. So you can get those Dolomine particles and start really pumping out that Dolomine prime efficiency to help save yourself material costs on and ship part costs and resource costs on your ships. It also, as we talk about almost every Alliance tournament run, you can utilize it to kind of get yourself into some 10K tasks that pay Alliance tournament credits. So it has a lot of upside. The downside is outside of hitting aquatics, it is not going to replace an FKR ship. It is just going to give you the ability to get places or even look into systems to send other ships. Because of its lack of shield, it doesn't really have necessarily the ability to completely replace a ship. It's kind of just, it's very strong in its loop. And then outside of its loop, it has not so much great utilage. But in MU waves that maybe you don't have to do anymore, but in MU waves in your 60 system, the 50s, those guys do come in as clutch on hitting those indie aquatics that show up in there. And now we'll go over to our next ship, DJs. And remember as well that now with the new update to dailies, as Tarpy was talking about, we have a weekly event revolving around two pieces of components of the NX-01, which is the weekly final weapon, and then as well hitting Zindia hostiles. So, these are things that require you to either run those Zindia armadas or FKR armadas, allowing you to utilize the NX-01's warp range to do both of those, or maybe even hit Zindia aquatics themselves if you're needing to keep your refinery going. So as you can see here, those two bundles for the Zindi Armada chests contain a lot of Armada loot. They contain the uh, primary sourcing for getting temporal artifacts, temporal remnants, temporal disruptors and temporal artifacts, ship parts, materials. All of these things are going to help you progress through your G5 life, just like they were helping you progress through your G4 life when you were using the ship there. So definitely don't sleep on these guys. They uh, have just so much versatility in getting you things done, helping you progress through your game and get power. And now we'll go on to our next ship, and that's going to be the Eviscerator. This is a love-hate relationship with a lot of people, especially myself. This is one of those taxi service ships, just like the Disco. But because of how slow this ship progresses, it's got its very big pain point of it takes weeks or maybe even months if you're not utilizing the Alliance Tournament store or even event stores to help buy those parts. But this is the first ship the game ever had that had actual guaranteed uh, drops of uncommon, of rare, or not uncommon, but of rare ship parts. When you're sitting at that tier 6 or below, you were getting guaranteed G4 ship parts. And then once you bring it up into that tier 7, you're getting guaranteed G5 ship parts or guaranteed G6 ship parts. Unfortunately, G6 don't get uncommon or rare until way later in the ship's life cycle. But this was the first ship that actually guaranteed you the ability to get rare ship parts, which are, even to this day, still a struggle for some players, not all players. To get your ships built. The nice thing about all these specialty ships we've talked about as well is that, they take very little, if any, ship parts. There's, like the old generation of ship parts, they are specialty ships did, but a ship like the Gorn Eviscerator doesn't. So this refinery also pays out some great stuff as well. You have here the Cephalococcus and the Apex recruits, which are great sourcing for some of those S&W officers we saw come out last year, where, all of them, you have versatility. We got, Nurse Chapel, Sam Kirk, Mbenga. And it also has refinery payouts as well for speed ups, credits, even resources and materials. So, this is one of those ships where you'll see more use for it for the things that it pays out for its refinery until you start getting into those higher levels where it has the warp range that actually start functioning as a real taxi service. Or your alliance mates who maybe have invested in it and have it at a higher tier than you, they can also open rifts for you, get you up into those spaces with your hard-hitting heavy ships, not just your NXL1 or your Voyager, so you can get feel more useful in an armada than just sending an NXL1 to go start a level 60 FKR Epic. You could send maybe your Pylum or your Tribune or whatever your heavy-hitting ship is. And uh, and this ship also has a funny mechanic with it where you do need to pay attention to every time you tier up this ship. It utilizes a component that you have to spend. Thankfully, it's a flat, cheap cost, but it's one of a kind in that aspect where it also requires you to spend ship parts to buy another part to install the ship parts for tearing it up. And we'll go on to the next ship now, DJs. The Cube. This was brilliant or not brilliant design on Scopely's part, where it is a truly transgenerational ship where it starts in G3, progresses through G4, progresses through G5, progresses through G6. It grows with you, giving you a second ship that, as you're maybe are or aren't building your faction ships, this ship is going to grow based off of those guys. And it's this is the generation where it really starts to gain utility and can really start replacing another faction battleship alongside whatever other faction ship you may or may not be using. If you look, and here we have, the chart for exactly what it is you need in order to get the data link node that'll let you progress the ship through its tiers. The downside of this guy is most of your uncommon and rare ships, are gonna require you to invest in them up to, that tier 6 point. So you get to your epics, and that causes the ship to really struggle in early G5 life, because the ship is going to be sitting at this awkward point where it's very, very difficult for G4 G5 players to get the officer stats they need to fill out this ship's bonuses. um, the grind locations are so inconvenient for players, right? Like, you have to hit in one system and then warp maybe all the way across the map to go get an efficient beam. Um, so it can become difficult to keep the ship's refinery going and keep things, keep paying out the parts that you'll need to upgrade this ship. Um, and it can conflict with players who like to build battleships, because it is a battleship itself that until you get really high efficiencies, it is going to be it is going to look and it's going to feel very costly to keep this ship going. But as we know, once you start getting it up into the G5 rare, G5 epics, and even in the G6 space, this ship really starts to come into its own, between having the power to um, fill out its officer stats and having the power as a ship itself. It really starts to pick up, and its research tree is nothing to scoff at either. Uh, our next ship, DJs, is going to be the ship that everyone in this game should love, should work on, keep going at all times, and it is the Protector. Uh, just the other day, when we were starting this conversation on Sunday from Jules Primer, Matters was saying that he uses this ship on a daily basis, and I feel like many players do. This ship was sadly the first non-Star Trek property itself to come into the game, and it has been the greatest addition to the game, probably until the Revenant came out. Um, this ship does it all. It grinds rep in the MU. It mines. It can grind pretty much anything it can reach. It can kill. It sources, some great officers. It's very fast. It's got a humongous cargo, and it can replace your necessity for a faction ship for a long time. The downside, like many of the specialty ships, is just very slow to progress. Once you start getting into 8, 9, 10, 11 tiers, this ship starts needing a lot of ship parts. So it does start to take a while to progress it. But last month we saw them add the beryllium spheres into the event store. We know we get at least one run of invasions, or Terran's invasions every month, to help us source not only the ship itself, but currency for it as well. And this ship is a beauty. We see it everywhere. We see it in arenas weekly. We see it in the MU almost constantly, mining your trilliums, or even hitting hostiles in there to get Omega Trillium or regular trilliums. So this ship has just so much versatility in the game that it is, I feel, one of those essential ships. If you're a player deciding you want to skip faction ships, this ship power and progression for you will be very key and very vital in doing that. Up next, we got a whole lot of aft in the Vindicator. This ship was originally designed to be a tank ship for armadas, and it does in fact do that job very, very well. But then they immediately followed that with releasing new types of enemies that it has absolutely no utility against. So that was fantastic to see. But as a ship itself, it has a research tree that impacts your other ships, providing them things like ISO damage, ISO defense, all health repair versus armadas. You can see here in a screenshot from a player that, once you get tier 5, you can start hitting these level 60 FKRs with just it and be just fine. It can definitely take a beating from armadas and keep going just fine. It's also a ship that is extremely useful for, say, your alliance mates who maybe are carrying you and they're bigger than you. This ship could be an option for them to send instead of saying maybe sending their G6 cube. They could send their Vindicator and still get you that kill, but now they're giving you more of the loot because they're not hogging it all with a ship in the billions of power. Unfortunately, though, this ship doesn't have the physical power to hit in kind of the same way that maybe the Protector, your faction ships do against hostiles for, you know, like hitting 60s or rep grinding. So this ship is kind of a one-trick pony in that its design and intent is, I'm going to tank this armada and I'm going to kill it over time. But it does provide some very useful research, especially since ISO research and ISO sources are just such a huge and vital part of the game. And now we'll go on to probably the most beloved ship in the game, and that's the Revenant. The perks, honestly, this ship has it all. It gives you so many resources, so many materials per day. It has a very, very solid research tree that is just chock full of efficiencies and resource and material cutting costs. Um, I'm not going to go into the greater detail because we literally just had Jules talking about it last week, but the evolution chests that this guy gives you are ginormous jump starts for G6 and G5, like he talked about. It's tens of thousands of each type of resource or each type of material that you can go into G5 and G6 space with. So definitely don't sleep on this, and definitely look into Jules' guide from last week on this ship. And now we'll go into the latest and greatest, newest ship, the Relativity. This guy just came out, and what does it bring to you? As a G5 player, it's going to be starting off slow, just like any other specialty ship. But what this guy does give you, it provides you daily faction credits, or it can't provide you daily faction credits. It provides you currencies for keeping your DTI store going, provides you blueprints. It sources unique officer and artifact in Seska and Strand of Crenham Hair. And if you look over on the graphic, we see that the formation Victory Chest Armada guarantees ship blueprints. Um, there's something very nice that as you tier this ship up, it is going to pay you more faction blueprints uh, per tier. But then you're suddenly going to hit tier 5 and realize, oh no, I'm not getting uncommon blueprints anymore. So if you're a G4 player or a G5 player or a G6 player who has this ship and you decide you wanted to build an uncommon, this ship will source you a lot of blueprints for those ships, but only while it's tiers 1 through tier 4. After tier 5, those uncommon blueprints go away. So that is something to keep in mind. The downside of this guy is that it relies on the Crenham Formation Armadas to keep it this particular set of refineries going. So if you're an alliance that isn't necessarily the most coordinated, or you don't have the right tools or power, that can be a struggle for keeping those Formation Armada based chests going. The ship itself can still progress, but maybe you don't get those Formation Armada benefits from it if you don't have the right tools in your alliance. So we spent quite a bit of time here talking about all the specialty ships. So now let's go into our G5 faction ships themselves. Um,
Really excited for this part. Like,
this next part about
it's going to be
Tarpy.
interesting.
So when Jules did his primer, a very interesting piece came up in, are these ships even necessary in today's game? Are they maybe dated? And there are a lot of people on both sides of the fence that I know I've talked to, and I'm sure Tarpy has as well, that say, really, these ships, you don't need them. And we've seen, in here some evidence from some screenshots of maybe your protector can get you by on a explorer front. Maybe your Monavine can get you by on a battleship front. In today's game, with how strong some of these specialty ships are and how much inflation for power there is in the game, maybe a player doesn't actually have to stop at 53 and build one of these ships. Maybe you can just go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to take my protector, I'm going to take my Monavine, I'm going to take, my Eviscerator maybe, and just chug all the way through that I can. Maybe I'll hit all the way up to 56, realize, oh, my specialty ships haven't progressed nearly fast enough to keep up, and now I am struggling. Maybe not. So each one of these ships does have something that it excels in. As you see here, the Northcut is an interceptor, so it is pretty fast. The Vorcha has a very, very nice firing pattern. It's got a lot of hull, and then the Corvus has all the benefits of being an explorer. Each one of them also has their own downsides. So, this is something where you have to evaluate your game using Spock's Club and the decisions you've made in, do I build one of these or do I not build one of these? And that's what our next little segment is I'm going to pass it back over to Tarpy, and she's going to talk about the debate of, do we build a G5 uncommon or do we skip them and use specialty ships?
And before we do that, we're going to take a break. That's right. We're going to take a break. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Destros and his breakdown of the specialty ships. We've got more on the Ultimate G5 entry guide on the other side of this break. My name is UltimatDJz. This is Talking Trek Live, Star Trek Fleet Command's official podcast. We'll be back right after these words. Yep, those words. Those words right there. The words that you can't hear because they're not actually playing. Commanders, in the vast universe of Star Trek Fleet Command, understanding the rules of engagement is crucial. At PvPTarget.com, our comprehensive guide ensures you navigate battles with honor. Learn the importance of protected cargo and why attacking a ship under its limit is deemed by some as an act of war. Discover which vessels are classified as warships and what ranges of ships you can attack. Find tips on crewing, mining, and the battle triangle, and so much more. Equip yourself with knowledge to engage responsibly. Visit PvPTarget.com and become the commander your alliance deserves. When life takes an unexpected turn, you need someone who will fight for you. At Musgrove Trial Firm, we stand up for Georgians in the courtroom and beyond. From personal injury to wrongful death, we bring experience, compassion, and relentless dedication to every single case. Justice isn't just a goal, it's our mission. Visit musgrovetrialfirm.com and let us fight for what matters most to you. Call Buddy at 678-226-1994. That's 678-226-1994.
This program is made possible in part by a grant from Milk of Amnesia. Take it first thing in the morning, and by noon you'll forget you're constipated.
Introducing Musk by Elon. Musk. The fragrance that's driving all the women crazy. The guy just won't leave.
It's very hard to turn it off.
One whiff and you'll be knocked up in no time.
What a jerk. I don't care.
And you just might create your 13th child.
Well, I guess we might make some mistakes. Who knows?
Musk by Elon. Now selling at the White House or an insane asylum near you.
That's for sure.
It's the horrifying scenario that has Gen Z trembling.
Deep breaths. Deep breaths.
And clutching the nearest emotional support animal.
Hold me, Fido.
Introducing Telephobia.
Please help me.
Because answering the phone is simply too much to take.
I need to text my therapist.
Introducing Where in the World is Snoop Dogg? The new board game where you keep track of the busiest man in America.
Okay, you have 10 seconds to name 4 commercials Snoop Dogg is in. Go!
T-Mobile.
Solo Stove. Corona.
Oh, Grubhub.
Nice job! Move 3 spaces to the nearest weed dispensary.
Where in the world is Snoop Dogg? Buy it now wherever you see Snoop Dogg, which is basically everywhere.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back into the show. My name is UltimatDJz. This is Talking Trek Live, Star Trek Fleet Command's official podcast. Appreciate you guys all being in here tonight. And what we are doing here is the ultimate entry guide into G5 territory. When it comes to the game Star Trek Fleet Command, there is a lot that is going on across all of the different generations, different content meant for different groups of players. But as you speed along in the game and as you progress and grow, there are certain things that you need to know and certain things that can hinder your progress as well as boost the speed of your progress as far as efficiencies and maybe secret or not so secret tips along the way. Presenting tonight is Tarpy and Destros, who have done a phenomenal job collating all this data and putting everything together. We are just getting ready to get into G5 FKR ships, the faction ships. Tarpy, there is some contention, more than I would have expected when it comes to what are the best ships in G5 space.
So I'm not muted, am I? Did I leave myself muted? I don't think I did.
We got
Sweet, not muted.
I gotcha.
Yeah, it's like a Zoom meeting for work all over again. So the next slide, please, if you don't mind. So it's just, I just wanted, if people were here on Sunday, I want to just go back to that feeling of just, I think a lot of us had our minds blown by some of the comments that we were just hearing and seeing about people's plans for G5 and how just drastically different that it was to hear some of them compared to a year ago. So I hit 51 on February 29th of 24. And I specifically remember it because it was the leap day. And so, as Destros was mentioning, a lot of these G5 uncommons are just not seen as needed anymore. I saw some comments in the chat, in the Twitch chat just now. Specifically, Carissa was saying, you know what, the G5 uncommon is still kind of needed if players are having problems keeping up with their solo armada pulls, and I am not 51 years old, Wardod, thank you. But if you're having trouble keeping up with your solo armada pulls, the faction ships might provide just that little bit more oomph that the specialty ships don't. Something else to think about is the solo waves. So if you are new to a generation and you don't have some of the maybe higher DPR faction ships that go with that generation, maybe you're going to have a harder time on solo waves. Maybe they come out with a ship next month again. I'm not NDA'd. I legitimately have no idea. But another potential downfall might be PvP if that is something that you value in your game. We bring up arenas where you need to win. Well, you still get credits for losing, so you just have to lose more if you value full pulls. So if that is a trade-off that you are willing to make, it might mean that you can get to 56 faster because you are not tiering your G5 uncommon ship to T4, which is, it seems to be the kind of common recommendation in the chat, is take it to T4, no higher. That's when it really starts needing rare parts, maybe rare mats. So even with the inflation of mats, maybe that's still not worth it to you. Another comment is faction ships get the benefit of faction-related research where most specialty ships don't. So there's still a lot of just, do you actually need this for the period of time that you're there? So what we have on the next slide is another one of those kind of chat check-ins. So DJs, I think it might actually show me updating the slide if you take it out of presenter mode on your computer. So if I type or get rid of this,
Yep, that's
is
working.
that showing?
Yep.
Okay. So as my part of this, I try to just kind of put a seed in there for the conversation. When I went to G5, I went 49 to 52 in a day. In full disclosure, I spent $100 on a pack that day, but between then and the end of G5, I didn't spend a heck of a lot of money. So I got a Corvus about 2 weeks after going to 52. I went to 53 partially because of that pack. You can do that a lot faster without the packs now. I left it at T4 until I got my Sanctus 2 months later. I eventually got the other 2 uncommon ships through G5 Armada chests, and I didn't want to take any of those. I didn't even build the other 2 until G6, but I didn't want to take the rare ore or parts away from my ops progression. And when I was in that part of G5, the Protector didn't exist until a few months after I had my Sanctus. So I would like to hear from 1 or 2 other G5 or G5 aspirational players. Is there anybody listening in Discord that would like to raise their hand to come up on the stage that is G5?
And while we're waiting on someone to raise their hand, I will tell you my journey. I did 50. When I hit to 51, I did 51 to 53 over a weekend. I spent 10 million or more in Latinum for the common G5 materials that I didn't have, but I wanted to get to that point. Not necessarily for the ships, but just for the refineries and to start getting, I did it right before Battle Pass was going to start. So I wanted to have those rewards. I am now Ops 59. I have not built a faction ship. My 3 best ships are my Protector, my Tally, and still my Tribby. My Tribune is T11. Still waiting on rare parts. But it is actually, when crewed right, because of burning, I can put burning below deck now. And I get multiple shots and all of that. It still outperforms all of my other ships in armadas. And I can take that and solo a 60 epic FKR without boosts. Okay. And I've been able to do that since I was in Ops 57. To get there, to get the ship there, I was using my Eviscerator. I spent a bunch of my loot and I bought all of the stuff in the away team store, but event store loot I spent on parts to get it to that warp. So I'm living proof that you can go and do the entirety of G5. I have 57 buildings left to go until I'm up 60. And probably that will happen within 30 days. As long as my Revenant, I can get that to evolve it for the first time and get those rewards. I will be well on my way to being completely through G5 and being ready to go, or starting to prepare myself for G6, I could be Ops 60 in 5 months.
So a couple questions for you. Again, if there's somebody in Discord that would like to come up on the stage, we can bring you up. But a couple questions for you, Putz. How are you doing on the solo waves?
I am happy to report that yesterday evening at about, well, this morning at about 4:30 in the morning, I did my very last solo wave that I had directives for. And believe it or not, with my NX01, with my tally, and with my tribby, I had Cerritos boost on the tally and the tribby. I had not a max fortification, just a normal fortification, and then brought my NX01 in. I was finally able to do 5 out of 5. And I let 2 ships hit, so I had 1 strike left to before I died. So I beat it just by the slim of my teeth. But I wanted to put this out here. If you have a Harry Kim that is max, you can put him below deck on your NX01, and now you have morale on that 24/7. Okay, in the Starship tree, or what, the
Nova Squadron.
the Nova Squadron stuff. Okay, there's a research in there that will basically replenish your shields if you have morale. Okay. Not only that, I had your Eurydice or Yuri as a sidecar, so that anytime I got hit multiple times during the round and I actually lost shields, there was a chance for her to replenish them. And that actually worked better than my protector. And my protector is, like actually my most powerful ship. So with that kind of combination, I was able to keep the shields up, and the NX01 has tremendous amount of hull. So if you can just keep the shields up on the NX01, it's actually a pretty good ship.
So so you're getting some like solid schnurp, like just grumpy people in the chat that you would have had a cakewalk if you just had a T756 rare. Now, we are not at the rare conversation yet because that's the next slide. But yeah, the NX1 has very little shields, and Venadia it doesn't have 0. It just has tiny amounts of them.
And granted, I agree. What have I given up by doing this without FKR ships? I have given up basically competing in any real PvP, unless it's a specialty ship on specialty ship. I'm basically toast, right? I'm busy on Mondays, so I don't do arenas. And arenas kind of started when I was, getting into G5. So I kind of made the choice of, okay, that's just something I'm not going to do, so I don't have to worry about it. I probably would have made the different decision if arenas was on a different day. But yeah, I'm lacking in PvP. I totally agree. I'm lacking in other areas where I could have made it easier on myself. True. However, I think that if I would have stopped and built a 53, stopped and built a 56, I would not be Ops 59 now, right? And once I got to Ops 60, I wouldn't have the faction credits to choose which epic I want to build. In fact, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I'm building all 3 at the same time.
Bougie. We'll get there. We will get there. So you are consciously making a sacrifice to do your gameplay the way you are choosing. And guest on stage. Thank you, DJs. I don't see anybody different. Let me. Batters,
I
Putz,
can go
Wolfie.
again if no one else can
Who's-
wants to chime in.
I just don't see the different G5 player that you just alluded to. But so yes, Wolfwood, just 2 seconds. So the idea for Ice Wolf, come back.
Hi.
Okay, hi. Okay, so Ice Wolf and then Wolfie, if that's so we'll do Ice Wolf first and then Wolfwood. Is good?
Oh, okay.
Go Ice Wolf.
Sorry.
Ice Wolf Law.
I
Go for
reached up to plug in the headphones for you guys and kind of rebooted my computer. Sorry.
Better before than during. Ask
Yeah, that's what I figured. So mine's almost the same as Putz. So I went to 53 just before Christmas last year. And I was Ops 50 and I went to 50 to 53 in one weekend. So same thing. But then I built a Vorcha.
Yeah.
And I still use it. It is still my secondary ship. So I mean my second biggest ship. I mean, sure,
How
my other
far did
ships
you
are.
How far
I
did
mean,
you
you were
tier
good.
it?
Hang on, I'm gonna have
I'm
to look
asking the hard questions.
No. The only problem is, of course, is my computer is still rebooting, so the game is kind of locked. No, give me 30 seconds. I'm opening it up on the
So
phone.
you maxed it immediately, is what you're saying?
No. I took the 53 immediately to T4.
Okay.
That was the best I could do.
Yeah, that also seems like a really common place because you need rare after that.
Yes.
So, and you can get
And
pretty
I
much
had
everything done.
plenty of rare, believe it or not. I have stockpiles of rare. Up until I built the Sanctus. But anyway, I had stockpiles of rare. It was actually the common. The UC I ran out of. I just didn't have enough.
Common or uncommon?
Uncommon.
Okay.
5-star uncommon.
Okay, so
since then, last weekend, or no, on the first weekend of this arc with the Giorgio event, I made the jump from 54 to 56.
So you went 50 to 56.
50 to 53, and then 54. I did 54 like a month later, so because everybody was yelling at me, it's the same, which it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I was just more doing in 4 months, you've gone through more than half of G5.
Yes, easily. But I will say that's because I've been playing for 6 years and saving like a fiend the entire time. If you're going to start now and just blow into G5, I don't think you're going to have the same stockpiles of resources. That's all.
Depends on how fast you took your Revenant up.
That is true.
And that's one of the big changes, right?
That's huge. It's changed the game. I would still be much worse off than I am right now. I probably wouldn't have done the jump to 56 yet, just because I would still be working on doing all the researches and stuff, but I'd maxed all the research trees for my ops level because of the Revenant.
That's crazy.
Uh-huh.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Later. Wolfie, other Wolfie.
The Battle of the Wolves.
Yep.
Okay, so where do you want me to start?
Well, did you get a UC ship? And I do actually remember the answer compared to the last time I asked you. But I want you to tell everybody.
Okay. So as I said, I went G5 about almost 2 weeks ago. I went from 50 to 53. I used pretty much the putz method, Latinum, to get through the commons, to get to the speed ups, and pretty much went to 53, got the shipyard, and immediately built the North Cut. So same day, 50 to 53, and built a North Cut.
Yay.
and I was not able to tier it, so it was a fresh baby tier 1, and I've only recently got it to tier 2.
Gotcha. So how far do you plan on taking it?
Oh, definitely the probably tier 6, probably to unlock the cube upgrade,
Okay.
probably
So
at the bare minimum. Yeah, I
okay.
plan on using it. Right
Okay.
now, I got a nice little good trendy going with the North Cut, my Protector, and my Tribune. My
Gotcha,
Tribune
because you
is
also
currently,
built a G5, G4 Epic.
yep, when I went from 47 to 50, I also ended up building the Tribune and immediately taking it all the way to tier 9 in one shot.
Dang, nicely done.
Yeah, thank you. So everyone keeps telling me about a parts problem in G4 and G5. So far, I have yet to experience a parts problem. If anything, I've experienced a matte problem and a titanium problem before I experience a parts problem.
I'm curious. I got a
At least
follow.
that's been
I got a
my
follow up
experience so
question on
far.
that. So
Okay.
I'm wondering about this whole parts versus mats issue, and I'm curious that I think this question needs to be asked when we're talking about, do you have a parts problem? Do you have a material problem? Is how many of the Dolomites have you accomplished, and did you focus on parts versus mats? The reason I ask that is just because those particular Dolomite primes have a huge, huge impact. And it's interesting to hear some people say, well, I don't have a problem with this, but I do have a problem with that, when it is completely opposite for someone else. What are the deltas there, Tarpy? Is it solely the Dolomite primes?
I can answer that. It's not the Dolomite primes, because I'm still at a rare parts issue on my G4 ships. I have no idea for my G5, but I'm still waiting on rare parts for my Tribby, and I've got that prime 9 out of 10. I have my mats at 5 out of 10, and I'm not hurting for mats.
So is it a speed thing, or where's your Revenant then? I mean, what is the problem? Where's the gauge?
My Revenant is 2 days old. Yeah, my Revenant is 2 days old. I think for me, it's probably the what I spent in the Eviscerator and doing that. But I mean, I'm just not experiencing a huge amount of rare G4 parts.
There's a delta here somewhere between Putz and Wolfwood. Is it Fleet Commander Lorca? Is it the Dolomite Primes? Is it Monaveen by chance? Is it the Monaveen skin? What is the delta between somebody having a material problem and somebody having a parts problem?
Well, the Monaveen skin wouldn't help, but yeah.
Well, Revenant.
I kind of skipped the Monaveen. My Monaveen is only tier 5. I kind of just didn't worry about that because during incursions, my server is really great and I have never hurt for resources. So I just, I'm sitting on 200 or 300 trillion par steel, 100 trillion of the other two, and that's kind of where my baseline has been for months. So I mean, but that's because I'm on the server I'm on,
All right, so that's
no,
resources. But what about materials? What about parts? Is it the Revenant? Is it Eviscerator? I mean, there's got to be a reason, right? There's a reason. Wolfwood, what would your explanation be? Or we can go to the next guest, 867. Do you have a theory? Chat, do you have a theory? Tarpy, what is the scientific delta?
I mean, I'll let Putz or Wolfwood finish his answer, and then.
Well, I think the secret to my success, well, first off, my Dolomites, it's level 6 for the parts, level 2 for the materials so far. But I think the secret to my success was Bajoran. I max pulled those Bajoran chests every single day in G4. So I got the max for parts, I got the max for materials, and I stockpiled and stockpiled and stockpiled.
Now,
so I don't think.
Did you say that you don't have a parts problem? For you, it's materials and trade, right?
for initially right now when I went to fresh G5, yes, my hard stop was materials because going from 50 to 53, I didn't have much uncommon G5 to play with. So I had to scrounge and scrap through platinum conversions for common. I had to use buy the battle pass to get the choice tokens to get the uncommon to go to 53.
And the Dolomites
so
are just for ship components, right?
Yeah, and then
Well, it helps trite too. So the mats and trite one.
So he said that he only had the
Is-
material and trite one at tier 2. So I mean that's essentially not having it at all. Isn't that like a 10 or 15%? I mean, it might as well not exist. Could that be the reason that he's struggling with materials?
So
no, because I was at 50, so that was still G4, and then I jumped straight to G53. So I was scrounging, scrapping, trying to figure out how to get to 53 and then stop and then stop at 53.
So I think it's just a time thing for you. You've only been in the generation for what you said 3 weeks.
Not even like a week and a half.
So like that makes sense that you're 3 weeks into being in G5. You don't need parts really for ships yet, and you're just not there. Like it might be a problem soon, but I feel like parts are also going to lessen overall for some people as their alliances get higher in the Emerald Chain, because one of the bonuses of the Emerald Chain is you get an extra pull in your Bajoran Armada refinery, which means you get more ship parts over time.
Hope everybody's saving, by the way.
G-
Sorry, did I say that?
What?
Nothing?
Yeah.
Did I say what?
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 What? I
What?
literally didn't hear you.
Oh, that's a shame.
Shush. So,
coming soon.
All right, 867. Good to hear you.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm hoping my setup works. I haven't talked in Discord in a long time, so
You're good.
All right, awesome. So I think you guys are talking about G5. So I hear a lot of good strategies. I hear a lot of good approach. So I'm going to give you my take from someone who's heavy PvP. So I'm right now op 60. I just went op 60 like 2 weeks ago. But prior to that, I was embedded in G4 for a very long time. And my strategy at that time was to focus on one ship, which is the Pylum, my killing machine, my war machine, right? That's I'm going to use that to crush and kill people. And then when I decided to hop over to 50, and man, 50 was a sweet spot for me because I felt the Tribby and the Enterprise A was like one of the best upgrades I could have done for my PvP experience. And from that point on, I didn't feel like I needed the G5 uncommons because I talked to a lot of people. Dr. Iron Chef, he also had the very good inputs, and so I decided to skip the G5 uncommons and waited it out and stockpile everything till I got to the Sanctus. And when I got to the Sanctus, I had all the ship parts, I had all the materials, and I was able to get near max right out the gate. Now, the only part that stopped me from maxing out was the fact that I couldn't get the epic materials. So that forced me to really rush from 56 to 58 just to get the refining started. And then at that point, it was just like, you know what, since I'm 58, let me go ahead and run up to op 60. And the reason why that actually happened was the fact that I think they introduced choice tokens, and that actually changed my strategy a lot. So that influenced me. So my initial approach was really from a financial perspective as far as materials and cost savings for parts and materials. But when choice tokens came out and allowed me to funnel where I wanted to target, like certain areas of my ships or whatever, that actually changed my strategy. And then what really influenced me now to circle back is really these scrapping mechanics, right? I was able to go back after my Sanctus was maxed out. I was able to go back and build all the G5 uncommons, and I scrapped them all, and I'm using those now to build the epics G5s. So that's my only reason why I would go back and build it. But what's funny, even now with waves, right, with wave defense, I still run the tally and the Enterprise A, even at this level, up to the basic, right? If I go mirror universe, that's when I'll switch over to the bigger ships. But now I find out myself that now that with the solo waves that are coming out, that's much more difficult, and I kind of like screw the pooch by jumping to 60 kind of quick because now I'm struggling to finish all the kind of difficult, but anything underneath that I can easily handle. So for me, this is where I kind of gave up research and efficiency just by hopping up to this level so fast. But looking back for me, because I was PvP heavy, my goal was really to get the best PvP ship. And at that time, my intent was to camp at 56 and max out the Sanctus. And I realized I couldn't do that. So I'd say, all right, let me up the game a little bit, and then let me go ahead and upgrade my ops level to get that refining going. And that actually just watching how Scopely has introduced other variation and mechanics of how materials and parts coming out, that actually, again, that changes the strategy, right? I recently just unlocked the Revenant, and at this point, the last ship that I gotten that actually the specialty ship that I've gotten prior to that was the Gorn Eviscerator, right? So I didn't buy any of the newer ships, right? The Relativity or what's that that big tank ship, right? I didn't buy any of those. I only have the Mono Veen. So, a lot of those are missing. But now that I've unlocked the Revenant, like I think last week or a week or 2 weeks ago, I was like, dang, I should have done that earlier, right? Because I've seen the value behind those tokens that are coming out, and I was like, but it's fine. But for me, part of the strategy has, at least for me, it evolved because of really heavily because the way Scopely has changed the mechanics of how they gave us the choice tokens, and I think that really influenced me to now thinking, well, if I'm going to attack solo defense, right, and the rewards on that is really good, then yeah, I'm going to really start focusing on building all my G5 epics, right? Because initially my intent was build a Sanctus and then build the Enterprise D and go into G6. But now I realize if I want to progress and do solo waves a little bit better, then I think the whole stack of G5 epics is the way to go. So that's just my strategy. Again, I'm a pixel slayer, so a lot of my intent has always been PvP driven. But in this case, the fact that we have new mechanics on getting materials and parts, that actually opened up a new, different strategy for me to think about.
So I think that is a perfect segue because I'm looking at the stream time. We're at 3 hours, so I'm tired. So I think what you were saying about moving through your Sanctus to max it almost the first day, this is a good point to talk about the G5 rares. So if you couldn't tell from how clearly serious